Greetings and salutations, race fans, motorsport lovers, and others, and welcome to episode 103 of Waved Yellow, coming to you from the global headquarters of raceday.tv. We've got a full show for you tonight, and another guest. Our first ever GTC driver is our guest tonight, Michael van Rooyen. Welcome, Michael, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for having me. It's an honor being on your show. I've been watching it a whole lot lately, and privileged to be here.
Awesome. And again, the first current GDC driver. And Gary, are you alive and well?
I are, Colin. Michael, welcome. Thanks for joining us, and congrats on a win at last.
At last. Took a couple of years, but if I'd known it's going to take a win to get me on the show, I would have done it a long time ago. So, but glad eventually I got it, and glad to be on the show. Thanks, guys.
That must have been one hell of a party that you had, but I want to get to that a little bit later. First, we're just going to run through some of the other things that happened this weekend. We will talk about Red Star, Brad Liebenberg being the GTC champion, and thank you, GTC 2 champion, and Keegan Masters, and the Falcon Polo Championship. Keegan Masters was your GTC champion. We were at the BMW M Festival, which was absolutely fantastic, and one of the highlights was getting driven around. Gary went round with Beitske Visser in the M4 GT4 car, and Sheldon van der Linde took me around in the GTC, in the, I'll get it right, DTM taxi drive car. It's still a V8 car, so it's not really one of the current cars, but it is super impressive. And then on Sunday, he got a chance to take Sean, his dad, around the track. And we've got a lap. And there are a couple of things that I think is really is cool to watch from this in-car footage. The footage is pointing back at Sean and Sheldon in the car. And the way he wheelies off the start line, he's not shy to rev the living daylights out of this thing. And Henk is just finding all the buttons to push and get the thing going. Right, so wheelie off the line and into the really quick turn one. There's a bit of a kink. In this car, you kind of don't really feel that right-hand kink. Hard on the brakes for the left. And this is where this car is so impressive. Left, right, and into the next left. It just watch how easy he's driving and the little steering inputs that he's got onto it. Over the curb on the left. And now coming to what I think is probably the most impressive part of this corner. Sean also agrees of the lap. Into Sunset, he has a breeze on the throttle, just turns in, you'll see it, the car bounces a little bit. And then back on the throttle, another gear, and then hard on the brakes. See Sean's head through Clubhouse and then up into the S's. Takes a whole lot of curb going in on the first S, and then just keeps it pinned coming through the second S, going up into Westbank. And it's completely blind. You're sitting very low in the car, lower than he is, but the way this thing stops and now just rotates, accelerate down the hill, hooks all the gears he can, gets into top gear just before turning left, bottom of the mine shaft, absolutely flat out through there and into bottom of the mine shaft. Hard on the brakes, big brakes, 3 Gs it pulls. It's got some incredible cornering, really spectacular motor car. And the sound, the whole tub tingles with the vibrations in it. It was a real treat for me, and thank you BMW and Sheldon for taking us around. And I know that Sean had an absolute, it was a very special day for him. So that was, they had a little bit of a race around there. It was absolutely spectacular. It's something that will live with me for a long time. So I was really chuffed about that. Also Bloodhound on Monday ended up, or earlier this week, 531 kilometers an hour. We spent some time with them at Tuxkenpan, and the car, it's a race car. It's got a jet engine, but it's got all the right bits and pieces for race car, lots of carbon fiber and obtainium. We did find duct tape on it, and we did find tie wraps, so therefore it is a proper racing car. And they've got a run program where they're building up and checking out the drag and how it stops. because stopping this thing, it's only a 16 or 18 kilometer track that they run, and from 1,000 miles an hour, 1,600 kilometers an hour, it's going to be hectic to stop. So they're working through the run program. But 531 miles an hour in this stage, kilometers an hour at this stage of their run is really, really spectacular. So Michael van Rooyen joins us, second overall in the GTC Championship this year, and just fresh off his first race win. If you've got any questions or queries or comments or things that you want to know, write them in the comments. Gary is live and checking out all that sort of stuff, and he'll let us know. Michael, that first win, it's been a long time coming. Last year was one of the frustrating years in GDC for you. You had the Rustenburg Rocket in the green BMW, and you spent a lot of time not finishing where you wanted to be. So how frustrating was it?
Look, I must say the first 3 years of GTC was extremely frustrating. I think it took us longer than the others to get up to speed and to get the hang of the car. In terms of electronics, setup, engine management, a whole lot. It's quite complex, but still, you know, we thought we were more or less there. Sometimes we had the speed, sometimes we didn't, and it was very frustrating not being consistent, not having a car that could finish every race, finish where we wanted to. But yes, we kept working hard. Freddie and the team did an amazing job. They really worked hard. They worked hard on me as well. Freddie's a tough guy, so it can be a little bit difficult at stages, so he always blames me first. I hope he's watching the show. But I worked hard on myself. I mean, we worked hard on the whole car, and he's just done an amazing job lately, and I think that's why we're currently, after a long time, seeing some results.
You switched from the BMW Shell to the Toyota, and now part of Toyota Gazoo Racing South Africa. You switched to the Toyota this year, and that seemed to be a bit of a catalyst in terms of just constant improvement through the year.
Yes, it definitely was. It was a big change for us. It was the first time that we had a proper sponsor on board, I have to say that. Someone to just put a bit of pressure on you to get good results. Not that we didn't put pressure on ourselves, but I think it just helped a little bit to get that other guy on your shoulder and just asking questions. And that helped a lot as well. And of course, having the funds to do the necessary also helped very much.
Of course, Kalfane is one quite strong. He's a huge taskmaster, and those Monday morning phone calls to explain the race get easier as success starts building.
Yes, definitely, and those calls come on a Saturday evening or a Sunday morning. So you expect them, and hopefully you had a good result. But I must say, we've had such an amazing year, and the Toyota team's been amazing. They've been so supporting, and it's just been a pleasure having them and being part of them. It was such an honor. And I'm just glad we could give them some sort of good result. It wasn't the result we were looking for, but I think it wasn't bad in the end in our first season.
I think second, look, this last weekend you got the win, which is well done. You got that monkey off your back, so now you know what it feels like, and it can go. But second overall in the championship by just 2 points. Freddie almost smiled.
We almost got him to smile. It was close. We took a team picture at the end, and I think that the cameraman was just a little bit too slow. I think he smiled for a second, but we'll work hard at it, and maybe we can get him to smile for even longer next year.
Let's go back to the beginning. Young Michael van Rooyen gets a go-kart and starts racing. What was it that got you, where did you get the bug for racing?
I think it just started out as just as trying to have some fun in a go-kart, and I really enjoyed it. My stepdad actually raced go-karts for a little while, and sometimes I stole his to go and do a couple of laps, and it's just addictive. It's such an amazing sport. I think I got addicted after the first couple of laps in that go-kart, and since then my whole family supported me, and it's been a family sport for us. And for the last 20 years. And I think that's what sort of kept us going as well. You know, it was sort of like a family adventure. And yeah, I couldn't get enough of it. I just had to carry on.
Then you graduated to polos, and Henk's got a whole lot of photographs that we worked through earlier today. The Polo Cup is a great starting series for track racing, moving from karts into cars, isn't it?
No, it's definitely. I think it's the best, how can you say, development class that South Africa has, and it's provided lots of national champions from Polo Cup. I mean, Calvin's come from there, Sheldon, Jordan, just to name a few. So it was a very good class. In those days, it was very difficult. I think it was an 8-valve with no ABS. It was a really difficult car to drive. So I battled in the beginning, and I was glad to make the jump to production cars after that. It was a little bit easier to drive.
And you went straight into Class B of the production cars, 2-litre turbocharged cars, and eventually ended up in... Let's go back to the beginning. What you were in the production cars. You were telling us you had a Golf and you wrote that off. Then you had another Golf and you wrote that off. Then you had a Ford, and did that get written off?
Not that I can remember. I don't think so. I think I had to take care of that. It was much more expensive than my Golfs, so I had to take a little bit better care of that one.
And then you ended up in production cars in that blue Chevy Cruze, which was it was a different car, and it was quite spectacular. You drove it spectacularly, and there was there were quite a few crashes before you moved into GDC. And was it a time where you were a bit rough and you needed to settle down, or what was the issue?
Well, I think if you recall, there were guys like Graham Nathan and Gary Formato, so I think the whole crowd was rough. So you either had to take care of yourself or get taken care of. So I think I matured a lot over the years. The Chev was spectacular to drive. That was built by Grant van Schalkwyk, just interestingly, and it was a magnificent car. It was the best car that I've drove up to then. And I think I eventually won a couple of races in Class A with that Chev with 18-inch tires, which was great against the S4 Audis, and that was a great time for production cars. And that was brilliant. And then since then, yes, to GTC, which was another ball game again.
Now those cars, I think they're spectacular. I know that there are a lot of people who don't really like GDC, but I think that from a driving point of view, they're fast enough and difficult enough to drive really quickly that you end up with the good drivers succeeding and even winning races. So what makes those cars difficult to drive?
It's got a solid rear axle, no diff, which is not the easiest. It hasn't got the widest of tires. They're quite soft, so it compensates a little bit for that. And of course, it hasn't got any ABS or any electronic assistance whatsoever. So you're driving purely on feel, which makes it a little bit difficult because it is such a fast car. I mean, I think we've done 1 minute once at Swartkops for a car that weighs 1.4 tons for a 2-liter turbo, which is quite impressive. But it is quite difficult, but once we've gotten the hang of it, I think it provides close racing, and it's a great class to be in.
Are they difficult to set up, and is the operating window of the car really small, or does it, how difficult are they to set up?
It's actually extremely difficult. We were talking about it this weekend. The entry barrier to GTC is quite difficult because in terms of electronics, engine management, setup of the car, it's really not anyone can do it. So that makes it a little bit difficult, and it's such a small margin. Everything has to work perfectly. We qualify, I think, tenths or 1/10 apart in qualifying for the first 6 cars. So you've got to have everything 100% perfect to be in the front of this class, and that makes it difficult. It's not something that you can compensate with, that you can either set up this way or that way. It's either right or it's not. That we've learned throughout the years. So we spend a lot of time making sure that everything is 100% perfect.
And what are the changes that you make in the setup to, is it mainly ride height, or the springs are set and the dampers are, you're allowed some adjustment on the dampers? What are when you talk about setup, what are the things that you change and that you fiddle with to get into the window?
Well, to be honest, Freddie doesn't tell me a lot. No, but there is actually quite a lot we can change. We've got 3 different spring settings for the front, 3 different ones for the rear. We can play with dampers, toes, cambers, caster. There's a roll bar front. There's downforce settings. Tire pressures makes a huge difference. So there's quite a number of things that you can change. And they all make a huge difference. So you've got 15 parameters that you can play with, and to get them all perfectly working together, it's not easy.
So you would come into the pits, and if you're not happy with the car or the car's not quick enough, you'll tell Freddie what are the, when you off, what is the normal behavior of the car? What is it, does it understeer, oversteer, doesn't it turn? What are the things that are difficult to make the car do?
Initially, we battled to get rid of an understeer in the car. That was a big issue for us for a number of years, the first 3 years. And once we got it sorted out, the balance is so fine that you can either have a bit of an understeer or you can have a massive oversteer. So at the moment, we've got a bit of both, and to get it perfectly right is not that easy. So sometimes you've got to live with a little bit of understeer and a little bit of oversteer just to get a good lap time.
So forget about the looking for the perfect setup of the car. Sometimes you change the way that you drive the car and accept that that's what it is and just hang it out there.
Yes, well, we have limited practice time. We get 3 practice sessions, which essentially gives you 2 opportunities to make changes. And at a new circuit, to get the setup perfect in 2 changes, it's not going to happen. So you make the best of what you can, and you drive around it for the rest of the weekend. Obviously, we make changes between races as well, but yeah, that's very limited because you don't really know what it's going to do, and you don't want to jeopardize a race. So that's very limited, but yeah, you must drive around the car that you have.
How sensitive are they to temperature of the track?
Also very sensitive. We play around with tire pressures a lot, depending on the track temperature and the ambient temperature. So it makes a big difference. In terms of wet setup as well, also a massive difference. But
you were telling us before, just sorry to grab the microphone, the wet setup. That picture of that car there, it's in the wet. You particularly fiddle with the map of the motor. What do you do on the map to help you drive it in the wet?
Well, Freddie's got a couple of secrets with the engine mapping in the wet that's worked really well. I think we've been amongst the top guys in the wet in GTC all along. But the main thing is to take away boost and to apply boost whenever you're in a straight line and you can apply the power. I think that's the main issue. If you're turning a steering wheel and you're applying boost, it doesn't go well.
But it can get quite spectacular when it gets sideways, but it's not fast and it chews the tires.
Yes, definitely. And with the solid rear axles, getting it sideways, it doesn't work. You either can't catch it or you can't stop the spin. So you hopefully figure out a safe place to land.
Are they really difficult to catch once they start sliding?
That's the thing with these cars. They're almost impossible to catch. So once you start in a slide, you hope you can maybe catch it, and most of the times you can't, which is unfortunate because once you get in a spin in a race, you lose all your positions. But we've sort of tried to manage that lately. But yeah, if you're going to fall off, you're going to fall off properly.
Let's look forward to next year. We're going to come back to the reason your helmet is here. And that's a brand new helmet, but we'll get there now. Looking forward to next year, GDC, they've chosen Stuart Thompson from WTC Engineering to build all the chassis for the new cars. And I'm led to believe that there are 5 new cars in total in production. One of them is for you. So it looks like we'll be seeing 2 Toyotas on the grid for next year.
Yes, I think there were some pictures of the Voorlock going around on Facebook from WCT, and that's our next car, our second car that'll be on the grid for next year.
It's hell of exciting that you're going from this year was the first year of the Toyota Gazoo racing. Now next year you've got 2 cars, and one of them will be the new shape Corolla, and so you've got that growth. Volkswagen building new cars as well, and another car for the BMW. So it looks like the Class A field in GDC is really growing properly.
It definitely is. I think everyone's seeing the benefit of being in GTC. It's a very closely contested national championship, and with I think some of the best drivers in the country, and it's very competitive. And I think that's now eventually. It took a while, unfortunately, but now that's now starting to boil over, and the guys are coming with new cars. They want to be stronger teams, and I think that's the biggest reason why EPS guys like Robbie Volk are building second cars. It just makes you a lot more competitive being in a team than being alone.
Now going into this last race at Red Star, there were, I think it was 4 of you in with a shout to the championship. That is a sign of close racing. And what did it feel like as coming sort of 2-3 races from the end? You kind of know that you've got to behave. Does it change the way that you approach a race, looking to score points, or still hang it out in the Rustenburg rocket style?
Well, for us it was a little bit different. I think we were almost out of it by mid-season, and I think that made us a little bit more aggressive in the way we approach the races. And if I remember correctly, I think we've won on points every round or the last 4 rounds. And I think that was, we could be aggressive, we could attack the races. Although we didn't win any races besides the last one, we finished very well in each of them, and got points, accumulated points, and we were very fortunate enough to be 2 points behind for the last race.
Gary, you got a question?
Yeah, Paul Hill. 2 questions from Paul Hill. He says, the real pro like Michael, I can't say anything. Number 2 is, when can I drive the car?
Well, when Paul, I think we must first get his ID to determine how old he is. I have to call him Wim. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Look, in terms of the second driver, I think Glenn and Toyota are very involved with that. Not so much us, me and Freddie. So we're kind of very excited to see where they go with this.
Talking about you and Freddie and the team, it took a massive team and commitment. It's not just Freddie, it's all Freddie's guys, it's you, your kids, your family. And I think King's got a great picture at the end of the race where Freddie, we spoke about Freddie nearly smiling. Managing all of those relationships in the team, it's got to be quite hard work.
Well, if you're doing well in the races, it makes it so much easier. It's the tough times that makes it tough. But as well, then the tough times also made so much better with their support. And I love having all of them at the circuit. Unfortunately, my wife and kids, because they're pretty small, can't be at all the races. But it's great having them there at the last race, and I think maybe that's where I got a little bit of extra pace.
Now, baby Michael Jr., you've taken him all around, and as he's growing older, you two seem to have a really great bond around racetracks. You took him to take him around in the car. That must have blown his brain.
It was incredible. It was incredible for me, first of all, to have my son in the car with me. I think it's a huge privilege for a father to be able to give his son that. I think it's a huge privilege to be going at speed around a circuit in a GTC car. And by the way, he was the very first person to ever be in a GTC passenger seat.
That's absolutely awesome. And then you took him and his sister to meet Fernando Alonso.
Yes, the two-time Formula One champion was here in Lichtenberg,
And two-time World Endurance champion. And all the other stuff.
and almost Indy champion, hopefully in future. And yeah, it was great meeting him. What a great guy. He spent some time with my kid, much more than with me. I was a bit jealous. But such a great guy, and he was probably talking to little Mike for 10 minutes. I don't know what they were talking about. I hope he was giving him some tips. But I'll find out about it later.
But I think that's the key to the future of racing is there's almost a generation a little bit younger than you that is kind of, I think, is a little bit lost. But I see more and more grandfathers bringing kids and older fathers bringing, and not that you're old, but you got lots of silver hair, bringing young kids in. And it's so cool that we've got this lots of kids around motorsport to build for the future.
It is, and if you look at Swartkops, for instance, at their attendance, lots of it is kids, and that's why they have all the entertainment for kids lately there. And most of my friends attend Swartkops as well, but I must say their kids enjoy it a hell of a lot more than they do. So it's a great environment for kids, they love it, and I think it's a very nice way to spend a Saturday.
Now, talking about Swartkops, what's your favorite track in South Africa and why is it your favorite?
Swartkops has to be up there because I must have done 1 million laps there by now. But it's just the heritage of Kyalami still sticks in your head. And you always remember the first time you went out on the circuit. And you remember lots of things about Kyalami, watching Formula One cars there when I was very little. So it's such a pity that we don't get to race there enough anymore. But I think between Swartkops and Kyalami, they'd have to be my favorites.
Well, at the end of next month, the 22nd, 23rd November, you've got your chance. You and Gennaro the Giraffe in a Walkenhorst BMW GT3, Kyalami 9-hour. That's got to be really up there for you.
Definitely. I think that's going to be a career highlight for me. It's wonderful being involved, especially being involved in such a good team. This particular team came first and second at Spa last year. So I think I can learn a lot from them for my future, and I think it's just going to be one big joy.
Now, they sent you a manual of how to talk on the radio protocol, and the way the team operates. How thick is that manual, and how far are you through it?
Well, if they're watching, I've memorized it by now. If they're not, to be honest, I think I'm at page 5 of 30. I initially thought I'll read through this the night before. And then one evening I was bored and I thought, let me just have a look at this thing. And it was 10 times more complex than I could ever imagined. I don't think I've got the hang of starting that car yet. So I've got a little bit of work to do before then.
But like any good race driver, you've got a brand new helmet. You went past ATS, and you've got a Stilo Carbon. It's a proper light helmet. And ATS have been a friend of the show, and they've helped us out in the past, and they do some good stuff. They facilitated you getting the helmet from Italy?
Yes, they helped me a great deal. It was pretty a tight schedule. I had to get an helmet within 4 weeks. So ATS helped me a lot with that, and got it bought in Italy, painted the whole lot, delivered in
Painted in Italy as well?
And painted in Italy, and delivered in 4 weeks, which I think is pretty impressive. I think I've waited 6 months before for a helmet. So yeah, thanks a lot to ATS for that. And like you know, it's a prerequisite for the 9-hour for the Intercontinental GT Challenge to have a carbon helmet. So that was the reason behind it.
And I'm glad you've left some of the bits of carbon just with a clear coat on it, so you can actually see that there's carbon.
Pick that up.
It's absolutely brilliant.
That's just to show off.
Yeah, well, I mean, hell, if you spent what you spent on that helmet, you've got to be able to show it off. What are you expecting from the 9-hour?
Well, initially I thought it'll be nice to drive a GT3 car, a proper GT3 car. And as this thing got snowballing, we eventually end up in a proper race team. So now you start thinking about results and so on. So there's a little bit of more pressure on than I expected for this weekend and that race in particular. So we're going to do as well as we can. I think we're going to enter maybe the Pro-Am or the Silver Cup, yeah. I think. So which are very competitive classes. So yeah, we're going to give it a go and see how good we are.
I'm going to look forward to that Wednesday. And I mean, the build-up to that must have been, because this is not the, motorcar racing is not the only racing you've done. You're a mountain biker, and this year was your second Absa Cape Epic. What is that in terms of a challenge? How big a challenge was it to finish those races?
It's a tremendous challenge, to be honest. It's most people see it as a 8-day stage race, but what they don't see is the 6 months of preparation before that. And you literally have to ride your bike for 20 hours a week. So you have to make a lot of sacrifices, see the kids a little bit less, see the wifey a little bit less. So it's a lot of hard work going into that, but my pure motivation behind that was to prepare as well as I can for the national series, for the GTC. And I think that played a big part in our success, our recent success as well. Just being better prepared physically for the challenge.
But I think it also helps you mentally, where when your body is a little bit broken, as it does get on the Epic, it's amazing how much your mind can take over and bring what you may initially think is a broken body and push you forward. So that part about learning about your mind, did that help carry through into some of the racing?
Yeah, it did, definitely. I mean, you get so many challenges on your road to Epic and in the Epic itself. Once you've done 20 hours a week on the saddle, to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get back on that bike, it takes some mental strength to do that. And in the Epic itself, you get lots of challenges. You get mechanicals, you get 46 degrees heat at some stages. So there's lots of things you have to mentally work through. And I think that helps with GTC, helping with challenges, setbacks, moving forward, thinking in a race. I just think it helps you physically and mentally a whole lot.
Are you going to do it next year?
Well, my wife said I can do Epic again with my new wife, so I haven't got a new wife yet.
Just by the way, with the comments that Paul's putting online, you might be lucky. He says you copied his helmet, all that sort of stuff. Just while we're on there on comments, there is somebody that did ask, and shifting slightly from where were you going, but to Michael, to Francois Germany, he wants to know, what does it cost to enter and run a GTC car?
I'm not that particularly involved with the finances, but from what I have been involved in the past, I think you can probably run a car for about just under 2 million rand a year properly. And I think that's what most of the budgets are.
And when you say properly, we've heard figures that if you run on a really low budget, you're not going to get much change from a million rand, but you're also not going to get very good results. When you say properly, you've got the right kind of people with the right preparation and the right maintenance of a car that can deliver you a shout at a national championship.
Yes, it's exactly what it is. You need so many resources. Just to give you an idea, after every race, almost the whole car has to be stripped and rebuilt, just to make sure that every component is in 100% working order. So that takes probably 2 or 3 guys permanently on the car from the day we finish the race till the start of the next race. You have to replace all the components that you think might not be working properly. So in the past, we'd think this should be okay, and then we'd leave it. But this year we could do it a little bit differently. We could rather say, okay, let's take that out for a spare, let's put a new part in. And I think that was a big part of our success this year.
The reliability, the lifing of parts, and if in doubt about a part, being able to bin it, that also helps from a driver's point of view, with the confidence that you know that the car is right and it can deliver what you're asking for it.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of a GTC car, you can feel from the first corner whether it's working properly or not. And just from that, you also get a lot of confidence, and you can push harder, and you can do what's necessary to get the best out of the car. You don't have to worry about what if. So you can just go out there and go flat out.
And talking about going flat out, what's the story with you and a couch in the pits at all the races?
Well, I can't remember when I bought that couch. Must have been last year somewhere. But since then, we've been inseparable. It follows me everywhere, and I hate anyone who sits on my couch.
Well, there's a challenge. Hold my beer. Okay, so we... but it's a feature of, for those of you who don't know, next GDC race, do yourself a favor, get into the pits and go to the Toyota Gazoo racing pits and check Michael's brown couch. We specifically got these brown chairs so that you'd feel at home.
Thanks. It makes you comfortable, and then you can perform so much better.
Michael, 9 hour, and then is it holiday time and prepare for next year?
Yes, this 9 hour, once we get that behind us, I think all the focus goes back to GTC, get in shape again for next year. Some people think off season you can do whatever you want, but that's the easiest part, where you can actually work on your fitness. You haven't got the distractions of testing and racing the whole time.
It's also the easiest way to lose it, is when you end up chunky like me because there's hamburgers around.
Yes, well, I look a lot different now, end of the season and starting of the season as well. So got to get back into shape for next year, and do everything we can to get the car as good as possible for that first race.
Michael, thank you very much. Gary, you got any more questions there?
No, just everybody was just engrossed with listening to what the two of you actually discussed and the in-depth that you went into. And lots of thumbs up and lots of people saying, well done, and make us proud at the 9 hour, please.
I'm going to try, that's for sure. We're going to definitely, Janara and I will give it our best, and we've got some stiff competition, as I believe. But let's see what we can do.
I think, just talking about the 9 hour, if you haven't got tickets, you doof. Do yourself a favor. It is going to be the biggest race in living memory, and I remember just a little bit. These GT3 cars are absolutely spectacular. The level of professionalism is unbelievable. It's a 9 hour long. In fact, the racing starts early in the morning, 8 o'clock-ish. There's all sorts of other races around. It's a full day of racing and entertainment and music and festivals, and you've got to be there. Go to the Kyalami 9 hour website, have a look for the tickets, and there's different options. You can go inside the track, outside the track, different levels of hospitality. There's a price point that will fit your budget, but you've got to go and get there. Michael, all the best. I think there's 17 South African drivers in the 9 hour. One of 17. It's going to be magic to see all those South African flags flying. On the Thursday for your initial test, the first runs, we'll be there, and hopefully you'll talk to us.
Yes, I definitely will. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. I think it's another 3 weeks. It's going to be a long 3 weeks, but can't wait.
Yeah, 3 weeks this Wednesday in 3 weeks' time. Gary, that brings us up to what's happening in the future.
Yeah.
SA cross-country racing in Paris this weekend.
In Paris, yes. For those who don't know, it's spelled with a Y, Paris.
And it's easily accessible, an hour, whatever drive from Joburg.
That's right.
And particularly important to Toyota Gazoo Racing are Glynners. They've done all their testing, they've raced in all over the world, and they've got the few final checks of the final specification for Dakar before they lock that spec down and get to do the final build, put the cars in a box and send them off to Saudi Arabia. I nearly said South America, but it's this is Saudi Dakar, beginning early January next year.
Just a late question coming in for Michael. Any chances of a GT3 race next year overseas?
I think that's going to depend a lot on the results of the 9 hours. So, yeah, that puts a little bit of extra pressure on. That's the dream, is to do very well at the 9 hour and perhaps get a couple of more opportunities.
Which would be the race, if you had to choose one race that you wanted to go to next year, which one would it be?
The biggest one by far is the Spa 24 hour. I think that's everyone's dream. Gennaro did it this year. I think he was unbelievably lucky to do that. And I think it's most of our dreams to go there and participate in that race.
Well, good luck with that one. You've got to learn all your Belgian and other foreign languages. Right, so that's it. Janil's with Alex Harrow, his new navigator.
And then just some other things. We got MotoGP this weekend, so we got Brad Binder's managed to pull himself up into P3 overall in the championship.
He's got a chance of winning it, provided if, ands, and, or buts. It's almost like the cricket team of South Africa. Go to a World Cup, lose. Oh, well, you've got to wait for everybody else to lose. But Brad is not, I'm not saying that he's a loser. He's a bloody brilliant driver. And he's officially confirmed MotoGP
for next year. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well done, Brad.
Just one and two other things for those who don't know. This past weekend also, European Le Mans Series, we had Nick Adcock and David Perrell over there racing. Nick Adcock was in a LMP3, Alicia JPS3, came fifth in class, and David Perrell came second in class in the LMGTE in the Ferrari.
Okay, now that's one step up from a GT3.
Correct.
Which it's a modified GT3, and they're seriously cool.
And from my side, just a last shout out to Kinsella, South African Superbike champion for this year, Blaise Baker, Super 600 champion this year, Formula 600, Nicholas van Wheelie, congratulations on your championship as well. And as we discussed earlier on, young Brad Liebenberg getting GDC2 championship and the Polo Cup championship.
Falcon Polo Cups.
That's right.
That's pretty cool. And Keegan won the Polos of GD2 last year, and now GD1. That's kind of special. So Volkswagen, I'm not sure, were you at the after party of the race?
I was for a little while.
Well, I believe...
I like he says that for a little while.
There were... Apparently it was epic. We saw some wounded bodies on Sunday.
Yes,
and
we did.
Cars left all over the place. I'm glad people are responsible and they don't drink and drive. Well done. But well done on all the championships. That's it.
Excepting for Mr. Harry Arrange, he's just decided to tune in now, Harry.
How's it, Harry? How's my car? Well, your car, but that you've been kind enough to offer to me. I believe that it's entered in my favorite race number 27.
Yes. And I've been assured by certain of the engineers over there, the brake fluid has been checked.
Yeah, awesome.
And the wheels are round.
The wheels are round and they're pointing in the right direction. I saw the corner weights that they did. I have those guys at Stradali know how to get some corner weights right. The picture I saw was absolutely fantastic. So for those of you who don't know, after 20 years, next week, Saturday, 9 November at Swartkorps, I shall be back.
Quick one. Somebody's just asked. It's a crazy question, but I think you know what car is talking about. It says, do you guys know if the Beetle is coming to the 9 hour?
No, it's not. The Beetle was...
So just explain to everybody what the Beetle is.
The Beetle was a Porsche GT3 car that they covered in Beetle bodywork and drove at Spa. It was more of a... Are you allowed to say piss pull?
Yeah. All right, Mark, there you've got your answer.
Yeah, it's not. I'm led to believe that there's 34 cars. There may be some more that are added, but it's going to be magnificent. On that note, it is time for us to move along. Join us next week for same place, same time, 6:45 for episode 104 of Waved Yellow. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for your comments. Be fast, be safe, and have fun. We're out of here. Cheers.